Imagine coming home after 6 exhausting months deployed overseas, serving your country in one of the most demanding assignments of your career. You're drained, but all you can think about is finally sleeping in your own bed, relaxing in your own space, and enjoying the comfort of your own home. Then you turn onto your street and immediately realize something is terribly wrong. The place where your house should be is nothing but a vacant lot. Dirt, broken concrete, and scattered debris are all that's left behind. It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly what happened to me. And the people responsible? My own Homeowners Association. My name is Mark Henderson, and I work as a special agent for federal government. Several years ago, I purchased a modest home in what appeared to be a peaceful, respectable neighborhood. At first, the HOA seemed like any other. They obsessed over things like grass height, mailbox colors, and other petty neighborhood regulations. I paid my fees on time, stayed out of trouble, and concentrated on my career, which frequently required me to be away from home for extended periods. My most recent assignment was unlike anything I'd experienced before. It involved deep cover operations with absolutely no communication with the outside world. No phone calls, no emails, no internet access, nothing. So when I finally returned and discovered my house had vanished, I was completely stunned. I stood frozen on the sidewalk as my duffel bag slipped from my grasp and hit the ground. Around me, neighbors peeked through windows and curtains. Some looked genuinely sympathetic. Others wore the smug expressions I'd become familiar with over the years. The first person I approached was Brenda, the unofficial ruler of the HOA board. She was standing in her yard tending to her award-winning rose bushes, carefully trimming leaves as if she didn't have a care in the world. My heart pounded as I walked up and demanded to know what had happened to my house. She barely glanced in my direction. Without any concern whatsoever, she clipped a dying leaf and calmly replied, "You fell behind on your HOA dues, Mr. Henderson. We mailed multiple notices." I stared at her in disbelief. "Notices to where?" I asked. I was deployed on a classified federal assignment in the middle of nowhere. Brenda simply shrugged. "Rules are rules," she said. "The board held a vote. Your property was declared a nuisance. We foreclosed on it and had the structure demolished to recover expenses." Recover expenses. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. My home, my savings, years of hard work and sacrifice. Everything I had built had been destroyed over a few $100s in dues that I never even had the opportunity to pay. The injustice was overwhelming. A cold anger began spreading through me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing control would only help them. If I wanted answers, I needed to be smarter than the people who had done this. For the next 2 days, I lived out of a rundown motel room, surviving on stale coffee and determination. Every waking hour was spent researching the HOA. I combed through public records, financial reports, meeting minutes, legal filings, and every page of the association's bylaws. And then I started noticing something disturbing. A pattern. Brenda and a small circle of loyal board members had been running the same scheme for years. Their targets were always the same: elderly residents, homeowners who traveled frequently, military personnel deployed overseas, or people who simply weren't paying close attention. They used tiny violations and overdue dues as excuses to impose outrageous penalties. Then they'd place liens on properties, rush the foreclosure process, and seize homes before owners could properly respond. The properties rarely stayed vacant for long. Again and again, the lots were sold far below market value to a developer who just happened to be a close associate of Brenda's husband. The deeper I dug, the clearer the truth became. This wasn't an HOA protecting a neighborhood. It was a carefully organized racket hiding behind the appearance of community management. Community management? Not even close. My home had never been a nuisance. It was simply the latest target in their money-making scheme. Brenda and her allies believed I was just another absent homeowner they could intimidate, exploit, and discard without consequences. They were about to learn just how badly they had misjudged me. The next HOA meeting became my opportunity. The gathering took place inside the community clubhouse, a place filled with stale coffee, forced smiles, and people who had grown far too comfortable with their own authority. At the front of the room sat Brenda, clutching her gavel with the confidence of someone who believed she was untouchable. I entered quietly and took a position near the back wall. When the agenda reached the public comment section, I stood up and walked forward. The moment Brenda recognized me, her expression changed ever so slightly. "Mr. Henderson," she said, forcing a smile. "We've already explained the circumstances surrounding your property." "You have?" I replied calmly, my voice carrying throughout the room. "You've explained why you demolished my house." I paused briefly. "Now I'd like to explain a few things to all of you." The room became silent. One by one, I began presenting everything I had uncovered. I listed names. I cited dates. I described transactions. I exposed a developer connected to Brenda's husband and detailed a network of shell companies used to acquire foreclosed properties at suspiciously low prices. Then I spoke about the families whose lives had been turned upside down, the retirees, the military families, the homeowners who had trusted the system only to lose everything. As the details piled up, people throughout the room exchanged nervous glances. Then they looked toward Brenda. Her confidence disappeared rapidly. The smug expression she had worn for years was gone, replaced by visible fear. "These accusations are completely ridiculous," she stammered, slamming her gavel against the table. "You don't have any evidence." That was the moment I had been waiting for. Slowly, I reached into my jacket. The room watched in complete silence. "Actually, Brenda," I said, "I do." I removed my wallet, opened it, and held it where everyone could see. "Special Agent Mark Henderson." The room erupted with gasps. I work for a federal agency that takes mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering very seriously. The reaction was immediate. Brenda froze. So did every board member sitting beside her. Panic spread across their faces. The color drained from Brenda's cheeks as she stared at the gold badge reflecting beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. That badge represented everything they had ignored for years: the law, accountability, federal authority, and the reality that they had just demolished the home of a federal agent. In a matter of seconds, their carefully constructed empire began falling apart. The balance of power had completely shifted. They were no longer dealing with an ordinary homeowner trying to recover his property. They were facing the full force of a federal investigation. What followed happened quickly. My agency partnered with state investigators and launched a comprehensive inquiry into the HOA's operations. The deeper investigators looked, the worse the situation became. The corruption extended far beyond wrongful foreclosures. Financial records revealed hundreds of thousands of dollars that had been diverted, concealed, or outright stolen over the years. Brenda and her associates weren't simply overbearing HOA officials. They were criminals. Arrests soon followed. Then came indictments, hearings, and court appearances. The legal process stretched on for months and demanded enormous patience. But watching Brenda and her inner circle finally answer for their actions made every moment worthwhile. My own fight, however, wasn't finished. I filed a civil lawsuit against Brenda, every board member involved, in the HOA itself. The case quickly gained attention. For many homeowners, it became a symbol of standing up against corrupt organizations that abuse their authority. The court battle lasted nearly 2 years. There were motions, delays, depositions, and endless legal arguments. But eventually, justice prevailed. The judge ruled decisively in my favor. The damages awarded were substantial. The defendants were ordered to pay the full replacement value of my home, compensate me for every lost possession, cover legal expenses, and provide significant punitive damages for the emotional and financial harm they had caused. It wasn't just a personal victory. It became a victory for countless homeowners who had felt powerless against abusive HOA boards. Today, a new house stands where the old one once stood. It's larger, stronger, and far better than the home they destroyed. Ironically, it was funded by the very lawsuit that exposed their corruption. The old HOA was dissolved completely. In its place, residents elected a new board committed to transparency, accountability, and fairness. For the first time in years, the neighborhood was free from Brenda's reign. If there's one lesson in all of this, it's simple. Know your rights. Read every bylaw. Understand every contract. And never allow anyone to bully you into surrendering what belongs to you. People often underestimate the quiet neighbor who keeps to himself. Brenda certainly did. They thought they could erase my home and move on to the next victim. Instead, they kicked a hornet's nest they never saw coming. And it's a mistake that will follow them for the rest of their lives. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever dealt with HOA abuse or experienced something similar, feel free to share your story in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Stay safe, know your rights, and always stand up for what's right.